In this video, we're going to be filling out the radians on the unit circle. I bet for some of you this is probably your first unit circle video that you're watching because you're most likely struggling the most with radians, but I would suggest you go back to my other two videos because I want you to understand how we got to where we are right now. Just like we did with degrees, we're going to do the same thing with radians where we divide a semicircle into different pieces. There's 180 degrees in a semicircle, there's pi radians in a semicircle. So instead of dividing 180 degrees by these different numbers, we're going to divide pi by these different numbers. First we have 0 or 2 pi if we go all the way around the circle, and here's pi for just a semicircle. And now we're going to divide that semicircle into all these different parts. First we're going to divide it by 2. That's 1 pi over 2. That's 1/2 of pi, or 1/2 of a semicircle. 2 pi over 2, which reduces to pi. 3 pi over 2. And then 4 pi over 2, which reduces to 2 pi. Now we're going to divide a semicircle into fourths. And we're in radians, so we're dividing pi by 4. That's going to hit all of the blue marks. 1 pi over 4. 2 pi over 4 reduces to pi over 2. 3 pi over 4. 4 pi over 4, which reduces to pi. 5 pi over 4. 6 pi over 4. 7 pi over 4. 8 pi over 4. And again, that reduces. Then we can divide by 3. Dividing by 3 and 6 are the hardest to know which lines you're going to hit. When you divide by 3, it's going to be the lines that are closer to the y-axis and then hitting the x-axis. It's 1 pi over 3, 2 pi over 3, 3 pi over 3, which is pi, 4 pi over 3, 5 pi over 3, the ones closer to the y-axis, and 6 pi over 3, which is 2 pi. And finally, we're going to do pi divided by 6, and that's going to hit every single mark except the ones right in the middle of the quadrants. 1 pi over 6, skip that one. 2 pi over 6, 3 pi over 6, 4 pi over 6, skip that one. 5 pi over 6, 6 pi over 6, which is pi. 7 pi over 6, skip that one. 8 pi over 6, 9 pi over 6, 10 pi over 6, skip that. 11 pi over 6, 12 pi over 6. And here is a full filled out unit circle with the radians. And whatever you do, don't try to memorize the radians in order because you're not going to retain it. Try to understand how we divide a semicircle into the different pieces.